Married to the Blob is the 10th episode of the 25th season of The Simpsons, directed by Chris Clements, and I'd say this was a pretty okay episode. I really like Comic Book Guy as a character, so any episode that focuses on him tends to be one that I enjoy, and thankfully this one isn't any exception. It starts off with a comic book, a new Radioactive Man comic book being released, and I love how everybody was queuing up to get it at midnight, and then Comic Book Guy meets this woman, this Japanese woman, and he really falls for her. And I don't want to say too much more about what happens with their relationship, but it was certainly very interesting, and it was nice to see Comic Book Guy becoming a little softer around the edges. We know he's very critical of things and very blunt, but when he's showing signs of love, it's a little bit different, and it's nice to see a different side to him. I don't want to say what direction the relationship took, but I will say I didn't actually expect everything that happened in this. It's not completely predictable, and I think it worked very well. I don't know if this episode is ever going to be referenced again. Part of me hopes it is, part of me hopes they'll forget about it. Or rather, part of me thinks they'll forget about it. So I'm not entirely sure what to expect for future episodes with Comic Book Guy, but I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was not too bad. There are some Japanese stereotypes in this, which are not the best, but generally it's a pretty interesting episode, and we get to spend a lot of time in Comic Book Guy's store, which I love because there's always so much to look at. We also have Stan Lee guest voicing as himself as well, which is always pretty awesome. I don't think I have too much more to say about this one. It's one of those episodes where I really enjoyed it. I thought it worked quite well. It was unpredictable, and I really like Comic Book Guy, so it was nice to see him, a different side to him, and to see him having his own story. It's not very often he'll get his own story. He might have a role to play, but usually even if the story is about, say, comic books, he tends to have a supporting role, so it's nice to have his own story. I enjoyed it. It may not be my favourite episode of all time, it may not be a perfect episode, but generally it was something a little bit different. I'm keen to see if they ever mention it again. We'll find out, I guess, in due course. But I think it's one that I would be happy to watch again as well, because Comic Book Guy is a really great character. So it's not a bad episode. Unpredictable, pretty decent pacing, a lot of time spent in Comic Book Guy's store. Generally, I'm pretty happy with it.